Hello, 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 world. This is Louise Hicks, your host of Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. And I'm going to speak today about part two. When started yesterday, I shared with you the teacher out of Houston, Texas ISD, who literally became emotional because these were his seniors who were graduating and they could not read and write. Now, this is nothing new, as I shared with you in that specific video. It's nothing new. This has been going on for decades. The American school system is broken. It is a hot mess. These kids are graduating. How can a kid graduate, go through grade school, high school, and enter into college and cannot read and write? That is shameful and a disgrace. And as I shared with you yesterday in the video, I was going to share a clip with you from a teacher who is explaining why she quit the school system, the public school system. And as you all know, President Trump was talking about eliminating the Department of Education. Now, whether that's been done or not yet, I'm not sure. I don't think it has been. But this whole school system needs to be revamped. And I don't have any children in school. And if you watch the podcast that I did about the teacher at Houston ISD that was crying literally, because these kids can't read and write. And he felt really bad that they've gotten through high school. Some will be entering college and they can't read and write. So I shared some information, personal information with you on that particular podcast, which is part one. So I'm going to get into part two and let you hear this teacher who explains why she quit. And she has some very legitimate reasons as to why she quit. So let's go ahead and share this. And I'm going to post an interview I had with a doctor of education in 2014 where we discussed the educational system. On my podcast it was an internet radio show in California back in 2014 along with my son Kenan Mason, who now has his own podcast on YouTube, the Kinetic Fitness Hour, because he's into health and fitness, which is great because we do need that as well. That should be part of the educational curriculum because we had it when we were in school. So let me share this teacher with you that will give you some legitimate reasons as to why she quit the public school system. So let's hear her and hear what she has to say.
I was talking to a really close friend of mine at church last Sunday, and she said something that really hit me. She said, "Stop learning how to do it and just do it already." So I'm done researching and planning how to start a YouTube channel, and this is me starting. So in this video, I'm going to share 4 reasons why I decided to leave my public school teaching job and take a hard look at the systemic failures in our education system. But this isn't just about my journey, so I'm also going to share how this decision will help parents like you who want to ensure that your kids don't fall through the cracks. So let's dive in. First, let me say this. The public school system is a complete mess, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The lack of resources, administrative pressures, and the emotional toll that it takes on teachers is overwhelming. I mean, I've had colleagues come to my classroom and break down in tears, completely drained because they felt unsupported. We had a first-year pre-K teacher. Her assistant quit 1 week into the school year, and she had no consistent help or no modeling, and was basically left to her own devices with 15 4-year-olds. Some days the admin sent in the in-school suspension monitor to help her, and he was huge, like Arnold Schwarzenegger from Kindergarten Cop, but he was not trained to work with toddlers. On my planning periods, I went down the hall to check on her and help her out because she was barely holding on. And this is not uncommon. I mean, between the laundry list of responsibilities, piles of paperwork, and having to fight for the most basic supplies, teachers are on the struggle bus. And all the while, we're supposed to be inspiring and educating the next generation. Newsflash, the system is broken, y'all. And the real problem isn't even money. It's about the value that society places on education. When you consistently underfund and undervalue something as vital as education, you get the results that we're seeing today. It's the way that we approach education in this country. It's outdated, and we're not teaching the skills needed for 21st century jobs. This is not a quick fix, y'all, because the entire model needs to change. So a little bit about me. I'm Gabrielle Bryant, a dedicated teacher who made the incredibly difficult decision to leave public school after more than 2 decades in the trenches in underserved schools. I spent more than 23 years teaching in elementary and middle schools, coaching other teachers in elementary, middle, and high schools, and teaching middle grades at a private Catholic school, which I actually really did enjoy, even though I'm not Catholic. But I've seen it all, from the joy of watching students finally understand a tough concept to the frustration of dealing with roadblocks from district officials that stifle creativity and innovation. But after years of giving everything to this profession, it became painfully clear that it's not the students. It's the system itself. It's the biggest obstacle to educating kids. And now that I'm out, I can cut through the fluff, tell the truth, and let the chips fall where they may. So reason number 1, I quit teaching in public school. The public school system is drastically underfunded. I mean, the lack of resources directly impacts the quality of education that our kids receive. Schools in low-income neighborhoods are particularly affected by outdated materials, irrelevant curricula, and crumbling buildings. Although the custodians are actually the hardest working people on the staff because they are literally holding the building together. Students in low-income schools are set up for failure from the very beginning. Teachers are expected to do miracles with less, which leads to burnout and high turnover. To make up for the shortfall, a lot of us are dipping into our own pockets for supplies. I don't want to tell you how much money I spent over the years, but all I can say is that my husband shook his head at me while I constantly shopped on Amazon, Scholastic, discount supply houses, and educational companies looking for supplies, resources, and whole class sets that the school should have been providing. But I made sure that every one of my students had what they needed. It was exhausting. It was unsustainable, and it was completely unfair to both me and my students. The school's media specialist, who I just love, even had to help me wheel and deal with the school district to pay for an accelerated reader program, which they insisted they could not afford to provide for the whole school. So we went back and forth with them until they agreed to pay for only first and second grade and all of the special needs students. But doesn't the whole school need to know how to read? Okay. Reason number 2, I quit teaching in public school. Overcrowding. Some of those classrooms are packed to the brim, making it nearly impossible for teachers to give every student individualized attention. And let's not even talk about the lack of proper support for kids with special needs. The special education teacher workload is ridiculous. I mean, these students have accommodations, IEPs, 504s. These may require specialized attention, and they're put into classrooms that are at capacity with only a part-time aide, making it impossible to fully handle their needs. I mean, the second grade teacher that was across the hall from me had the inclusion class with a mix of regular education and special needs students. She shared her part-time special education teacher with a 4th grade inclusion class on the other side of the building. So the special education teacher spent only half a day with each class. So during the other half, individualized attention significantly decreased. It's not only unfair to the students, but it's incredibly stressful for the teachers who are already juggling a million other responsibilities, including discipline issues. Reason number 3, I quit teaching in public school. The overemphasis on standardized testing. This obsession creates a culture of teaching to the test rather than providing a well-rounded education. Schools are so focused on meeting random benchmarks that we are churning out underachieving test takers instead of critical thinkers. For a lot of students, the curriculum isn't even relevant to their lives, and the system's focus on test scores over real learning only makes them more disengaged. They know we're not preparing them for the real world. They're not fooled, and they check out. The truth is, our education system is designed to produce mediocre results, not to inspire or empower students to reach their full potential. I mean, my district is spitting out proficiency levels on average around 30% across the board in all subject areas. That means 70% of our kids are not making the cut, yet they're congratulating themselves like they're really doing something. Why are we patting ourselves on the back? And why is the superintendent getting a raise when kids can't read or write? I'm sorry, I digress. But maybe that's why the new administration wants to get rid of the Department of Education. And what would that look like for schools? That's a video for another day. Reason number 4, I quit teaching in public school. Teachers have little to no autonomy. I mean, we're given rigid cookie cutter lesson plan templates to fill out and scripted academic programs or curriculum that don't consider individual students' needs or their learning styles. And what you end up with is a lack of motivation and enthusiasm from both the students and the teachers. I mean, this is a one-size-fits-all approach, and it doesn't work. It just frustrates teachers, disengages the students, and stifles creativity in the classroom. And on top of that, we're constantly being evaluated with measurements that don't reflect our actual impact on student performance. The pressure creates a toxic work environment, and teachers end up feeling micromanaged, and then they're afraid to be themselves or try anything new. I mean, public schools used to be places where teachers were respected and the students loved coming to learn. But sadly, today's schools are run by people who are out of touch because they either stopped teaching in the classroom years ago or they never even set foot in a classroom to teach. Students and parents are disillusioned, the teachers are disgruntled, and the district is using smoke and mirrors to pretend that they're focused on growth and learning, and they're really just sending mixed messages about how well the students are actually performing. What we really have is a system that's focused on justifying a top-heavy leadership model while they're hiding the sad truth of our state standardized test results. And then they have the nerve to lay the accountability squarely at the feet of the teachers for all the poor test scores. The system is not designed to support students or teachers. It's designed to protect itself and survive, no matter the cost. I mean, I'll be honest. There were lots of times in my career when I just closed my door and taught the way I knew my kids needed me to teach. I mean, I never broke the rules, but I just tried to shut the district out, give my students some unique learning experiences, and have a come to Jesus meeting with them when they needed it. But early last year, everything changed. I was sitting in a grade level meeting with administrators. They were rolling out yet another idiotic initiative to make it look like we were educating some kids. And before I knew it, I blurted out, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that because it's not in the best interest of my kids, and I'm not doing it just to check a box. That moment was a turning point for me because the rebel inside that I usually kept under wraps busted out, and that's when I knew it was time to go. The rest of the school year, I found myself being more and more rebellious in the name of what was best for my students, not caring whether or not I upset the apple cart. It became somewhat of a joke for my administrators to poke fun at me in the meetings about the fact that I kept saying, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I am not doing that. But I was tired of trying to work around all the roadblocks they constantly threw in my path. And I couldn't keep sacrificing my time, my well-being, my relationships, all for a system that wasn't helping students or teachers succeed anyway. The decision to quit teaching in public school was one of the hardest I've ever made. It was scary. And to be honest, I still don't know what's going to happen. But I was constantly stressed, anxious, and exhausted. And I felt like I wasn't getting enough done anyway. I knew that machine was going to roll on with or without me. And since I couldn't fix the system and I couldn't really help parents and students the way I wanted to while working within the system, I chose to work outside of the system to really affect change. And that's why I'm sharing my story. I mean, it's not easy to talk about, but it needed to be said. I wanted the freedom to create something better, something that's truly supporting students and parents in the ways that the traditional system doesn't. I mean, I thought moving to a charter school might be the answer. And it is a different system, slightly different, but it's a system nonetheless, with its own set of handcuffs. But that's a topic for another video. The failures of the public school system may have led me to leave, but I haven't stopped teaching. We need to get back to valuing our students, valuing teachers, and giving them the autonomy to design their own lessons to encourage creativity and critical thinking. That's a big undertaking that won't happen overnight. So in the meantime, here's where you benefit. I'm starting this channel to share everything that I've learned over the last 2 decades with parents like you who are ready to take charge of their kids' education. Look, the public school system is broken. I mean, that's obvious, but we can't wait around for it to be fixed. We've been waiting this long and it still isn't fixed. We have to focus on what and how our kids learn so that we can nurture curious problem solvers instead of just churning out test takers. If you can relate to anything that I've shared, whether you're a teacher, parent, or student, or one of my old students, drop your story in the comments. Let's start a conversation, a real conversation about how we can create meaningful change, whether that means fixing the system or building something entirely new. And if you're ready to dive deeper into these discussions, hit the subscribe button below because I'm going to be sharing more about educational reform, practical strategies, and ways to ensure that your child succeeds in spite of the system. Because every child deserves to love reading and writing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.
Okay, thank you, Miss Gabrielle Bryant. Very seasoned, may I say, educator. Miss Bryant did not sugarcoat it, and that's who I am. I don't sugarcoat anything when I speak. I speak from experience, and that's what she has done with over 2 decades of experience. She has spoken, and she spoke from her heart. That's what I liked most about it. She spoke out of love for the students, and she spoke with her heart. She has put in over 2 decades, and these teachers are leaving. And she just told you why. So, parents, I created this. Don't be fooled. And please share this, subscribe, like, leave your comments. What do you think? And this is part 2. Go watch part 1, where the teacher that I did the news clip on out of Houston, Texas, was crying. I believe Darius Williams. And he was just emotional over these seniors. How do you get to be a senior and you've passed through kindergarten, grades 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and you can't read and write? That's shameful and it's a disgrace. And I'm so happy that she did not sugarcoat it. And parents, we need to play an active role and hold these administrators, politicians, hold them accountable to our children's education, because it is a shame and sad. And this has been going on. I shared in the podcast when I profiled the teacher that was crying down in Houston, Texas yesterday, that I did, along with my son, a podcast in 2014 when we were doing our radio show in Hollywood, California, back Aim to Purpose, the radio show. And we shared Dr. Roma Benjamin out of Pennsylvania, I believe it was Harrisburg, I believe, where she was a principal. And I believe she said she was suspended because she was doing what this teacher, Miss Bryant, was doing. She wasn't going to do that. So she quit a 6-figure job. She just up and quit, and she started a school in her church for boys because they needed it the most. And I will share the link to that particular video. And she was saying, we got to be creative. If this school system, and we're not going to hold them accountable, they're not going to educate these kids, we need to get the churches involved. The religious leaders have a school, because actually schools for us started in church, because if you are aware, and I hope you are, you know our Black history, we had no choice but to have schools in our churches because we could not go to the white schools. They didn't feel we were two-thirds of a person. Remember, according to the Constitution, we were property in chattel slavery, so we couldn't go to their schools. So schools were in the churches. We might have to get back to that, particularly within the lower economic classes. Class buildings are dilapidated, and I can attest to it. Coming out of California, I would I was always, they knew me at my children's schools because I did not allow them to just pass my kids. And my kids were well educated because I made sure of that, because I was educated. I have a bachelor's degree in social work. And I've had so many years of experience because I'm 75. I would say I have a PhD and a master's due. Therefore, I am speaking from experience. And this is nothing new, as I've written here in the public school system. It's been going on for decades. Will it change? We don't know. Teachers are leaving because they don't get any support. And so parents, don't be fooled. You heard all the 4 reasons why Miss Gabrielle Bryant left. She left because lack of resources, which Dr. Roma Benjamin talked about that in 2014 in the interview that we did with her, the emotional toll that it takes on these teachers, the lack of support. And the teachers are, I'm just going to add one. Um, the teachers are not your children's parents. They are there to educate, inspire, empower, and prepare your children to be leaders, to be parents. We need to put some of the things back into the schools too that they've taken out, because I believe a lot of schools have taken out physical education, they've taken out home economics, they've taken out woodworks, auto mechanics, things that are vital. These kids are not learning anything to help them to become leaders. And it goes back to how the school system is, it's by design. And they thought they were designing it to create workers. However, if this trend continues, you're not going to have workers because they're not going to know how to be a worker. They're not going to know how to read. How are you going to be a worker if you don't know how to read and you don't know how to write? This is sad. And please share, like, subscribe, leave your comments, thumbs up, because this is nothing new. And we need to hold ourselves as parents accountable. We need to hold these educators accountable, because some of them are so fed up, they're leaving. As you can see, this is a highly articulate teacher here, Miss Gabrielle Bryant, and she didn't sugarcoat it. She laid it on the line about all the things that are coming up that we're suffering from. And she talked about the fourth one, I believe, was the lower economic areas suffer the most. And that's where our kids, as Black kids, tend to be. So the expectation can be low from some of the teachers for the students because they are so fed up and burnt out. It takes an emotional toll upon them. So parents, don't be fooled. Parents, get involved in your children's education. Teach your children their history. Don't let them become idle in the summer when they don't have to go to school. When my kids were not in school in the summer, I went to the library with them, checked out books, told them to write me a book report and that I was going to read all those books, knowing that I wasn't because I couldn't read that many books. I had 3 children going to the library. And we would always check out books that were informative, books that were elevating. They did not check out books that did not inspire them or empower them. They were books. That's why I was there with them, helping them to pick out the books. And this is what it, oh, this is just a disgrace and a shame. So please check out part 1 of this video, of this podcast, part 1, where the teacher was crying, literally because these are senior students about to graduate, and some will go on to college, excuse me, and they cannot read or write, neither one. And some are in college. I know people that are at some of these colleges, and they said these kids, you ask them to write up an incident or a paragraph on something, they can't spell, they can't write, they can't construct a simple sentence with a subject and a verb. They're writing phrases. I know I worked with some of the people I worked with back in the 70s and 80s, because I'm 75 years of age now. And some of them were not learning. So I'm telling you, this goes way back where they could not read and write back then. So this has been going on for decades. This system has been by design to un, undereducate or miseducate our children. And I get emotional about it. And I said, no way my children will come out of school not being able to fill out a job application or create a resume or know how to articulate themselves with English, not Ebonics. And this is what is so sad. So, anyhow, I digress because I get emotional too. And I don't have minor children now. I do have a granddaughter, but she's being homeschooled. And she probably is more advanced now in all academics than some kids that are getting ready to graduate. And she's going to the seventh grade, but she's homeschooled. And plus, she's being educated by me. We speak about entrepreneurship, investments. She was the only person in her, I think it was a third grade class, that knew about stocks and the stock market. And I believe it was the fifth grade, she knew about vision boards and so forth, because I invest in. So we can have grandparents to get involved too, not just the parents, because sometimes the grandparents are retired and maybe they have more time on their hands to help their grandchildren. And you don't have to be there today with technology to help your children. You can Zoom with them. You can talk on the telephone with them. I do that with my granddaughter. We discuss investments. We discuss real estate, and we do a lot of this on the phone. We're going to have a master class where she's going to learn even more about entrepreneur and investments. So it's all kinds of ways we can communicate with the children to help them to learn leadership, critical thinking. And it's just a shame and a disgrace. And we need more of these religious institutions. Why not have some classes to help the children like Dr. Roma Benjamin did? And like I said, I'm going to share that link with you in on both of these podcasts. The one with the teacher that was emotional and crying, as well as this one. I'm going to share the link of the podcast with Dr. Roma Benjamin, who quit her six-figure job. This was 2014 when we did this interview on my radio show out in Hollywood, California. And I mean, this is just a disgrace. And it's shameful. I can't say that enough. It's shameful. Coming out of high school and you can't read and write, and you cannot sit down and write a complete sentence with a subject and a verb, and you're writing phrases, you can't spell. And it's sad, because the resources aren't allocated to the lower economic schools, which falls within the Black community, the Hispanic communities. And it's we got to make these people accountable to us and our children. And we got to learn how to, because some of us may not know how to read either. Because like I said, I worked with some people back in the 70s and 80s when I was in management. And some of them could not write or read. And that's sad, but they were working, but they couldn't put a complete sentence together that made sense. I used to have to help to rewrite evaluations from some of the people that were lower level management when I was a department head. And that should not have been. It's so sad. So I'm going to stop talking now. Again, thank you, Miss Gabrielle Bryant, because you really didn't sugarcoat it. You laid it on the line while you quit. And I hope you're still educating in some form or fashion. And again, I'm Louise Hicks. This is part two. Go and watch part one because we need to invest in our children. They are our future. So share, like, subscribe, and by all means, leave your comments. And I will tell you this much, as I always tell you, your power lies within you. Let it loose because your destiny is your command. And I leave you with the scripture that I love, 2 Timothy 1:7. For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Let's start exercising that sound mind, using those critical thinking skills and partnering with their schools to help hold the administrators, the politicians, all of them accountable to our children and provide us with the needs. The teachers should not have to go out and spend their hard earned money on supplies and whatever the needs are for your children because the system has failed the teachers and us and the parents. And parents, we got to move forward. We got to make them accountable. So I will see you all in the next video. And I'd like to take this time as I'm stopping the video and thank my supporters, subscribers, and please share, 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 and like, because more people need to see videos like this that's uplifting and helping to bring some sanity to this chaotic school broken system and the chaotic world as well. So have a good day, good evening, wherever you are.